So the streets of Night City today look a lot like Blade Runner. So welcome back, everyone. We're going to be talking about Cyberpunk, a lot of stuff going on today, including this big question right here that I think a lot of us are feeling. Ask this: so there really is no future for this game, huh? And I think a lot of people are feeling this way after the most recent patch, update 1.23, because it was absolutely underwhelming. So we're going to dive into this post right here and get the feeling from the community, how everyone is feeling. Plus, yeah, is there a future to Cyberpunk? We'll dive into that more. Plus, we're going to be talking about a new DLSS fix for PC that you absolutely need to check out if you really want to improve your experience in Cyberpunk. And what about crowd density? We'll be talking about that. Plus, Cyberpunk is facing a new problem because this game had such a rough launch. People are piggybacking off that and really taking advantage of that when it comes to reporting glitches and showing off certain things that are wrong with the game. So let's dive into this. Hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good. And yes, we are talking about Cyberpunk 2077, and we're going to start with this question right here. It is definitely on my mind as well. So there really is no future for this game, huh? Because, you know, that recent patch was, in my opinion, a complete joke. Did fix some stuff, don't get me wrong, but that stuff should have been fixed from the get-go. Now it says, let me just preface this by saying I'm a huge fan of Cyberpunk 2020, and I even like pieces of Cyberpunk 2077 despite its many flaws. It's been nearly 6.5 months since Cyberpunk 2077 released, and since its rocky release, there's been a grand total of 3 patches and 10 hotfixes. Most of the patches, as we've seen, typically add as many bugs as they remove, and the hotfixes simply exist to clean up a few of the new problems. There's been little to no word, correct me if I'm wrong, about the free DLCs in the patch 1.2 roadmap scheduled for this year, and there's been no word of paid content either. It took only 5 months for Witcher 3's Hearts of Stone, a 10 to 15 hour long DLC, to be released, with 16 small free quest cosmetic new game plus DLCs being released before it. So you can see the stark difference here with how things are rolling out for post-launch support of Cyberpunk 2077. I hope things change quickly after June 21st. That is an extremely important date to Cyberpunk because that's when it's being relisted on the PlayStation Store. So things may hopefully start changing towards the positive for this game. But let's keep reading. He says this: we still don't have any way of changing our hairstyle during the game. Absolutely ridiculous. We still don't have New Game Plus. Can't believe that hasn't been included in the game right out of the gates. Even Biomutant has a New Game Plus. There's been no additional cosmetic design options added, and there are just the small changes. And hell, there's no real obvious way to even add a major DLC. You can't tack it on to the end of the game without requiring certain endings. You can't add it outside the base game because the world is so massive you couldn't redesign it for a prequel act. I know it's beating a dead horse at this point, but I guess the new patch just reopened the scab of how much failed potential Cyberpunk 2077 had and how much mismanagement of the project created CD Projekt Red's own version of Anthem. Yeah, so a lot of people are feeling you know, the pain, I guess you would say, right now, especially after that recent patch. It was overwhelmingly underwhelming. I guess you would word it that way. But, you know, because of the game's rough launch, what you're seeing right now are a lot of people taking advantage of the fact that this game did have a rough launch, and they're reporting these glitches that aren't exactly, how should I say it, bugs or glitches. So there was a recent article I stumbled upon from right here, The Gamer. It says Cyberpunk 2077's latest patch adds more glitches. And, you know, I have actually seen reports where it seems like there are problems with the game. For example, the patch did say this right here, so we're going to dive into this one first. It says patch 1.23 spawns fewer instances of NPCs with identical appearances in same area worth the wait. And this video showcases how there are repetitive NPCs still in certain areas of the world. I don't know if this is grabbing from a specific area, but there's also screenshots showcasing the same thing, and it seems like in the actual Reddit thread, a lot of people are experiencing redundant NPCs in the world of Night City, which is definitely a problem, and it sounds like in some areas it's actually worse off. However, if we go back to this article here, it goes on to say this: about the glitch. It says, this was the case as pointed out by Redditor Mr. Pirate Fox, who posted a video of the fog acting up in their game. The video shows a fog-covered night city with the neon skyline barely visible through the thickness. However, the fog disappears and the skyline pops into clarity as soon as the player takes a few steps forward. It goes back to the original setting when it takes a few steps back. And I was like, I gotta dig in here and see this actual Reddit post and see what is happening. And if we go to the Reddit post, it is one of the most upvoted posts right now on the Cyberpunk community. Here it is, as patch 1.2, what is happening with the fog? And you can clearly see without even going into the video, this looks like PlayStation 2 graphics. This is like on the lowest of the low settings, which of course is probably going to create problems in of itself. So, you know, calling this a glitch is problematic in my opinion. But as you can see, if we cycle through this, you can see how the fog is disappearing and reappearing in the city. Just looks terrible. It's like PS2 graphics. Now, we do have a reply from the actual mod team out on the subreddit. It says, I almost want to remove this for what feels like karma farming, trying to show a bug as if it isn't you playing on RuneScape 1 graphics. Yes, at super low quality, there may be some minor hiccups like this in the game. Please find better things to critique about the game. There are a lot of them. Yes, the core game does have its own problems as well. A lot of you guys are noting that even with these fixes to bugs and patches, there are so many issues. And we have some replies from the actual community as well beyond the moderators. It says, you're running the game at a lower settings of the render distance fix. You've just noticed the barrier as well. And someone actually called out how this appears to be someone playing on a GameCube. Like, what is going on here? So you can see how there's been these interesting reports, and I have not noticed that myself. But yeah, this is the thing that you gotta watch for after post-launch. Again, the core issues of the game still exist and they need to be fixed. It's just that in the mix you get these weird posts that seem like they're also trolling, at least in my opinion. Now let's get on to the DLSS 2.2 fix. This is a really good one right here. This comes from Larsimer, who says, please do not sleep on the DLSS 2.2 fix. It says, if you have an NVIDIA card capable of DLSS, please for love of God try the 2.2 fix. It almost completely eliminates ugly ghosting on reticules, pedestrians, cars, etc. And even bigger, it makes the higher performance presets of DLSS much more attractive due to a lot of blur having been removed. So prior to trying this, even quality mode was ruining my experience, especially on 1080p. Now I'm running 1440p DSR on my 3060 Ti with RT off DLSS performance, and I'm averaging about 120 to 130 frames per second in the city. This is what I'm talking about. This is the good stuff from the patches, of course. So that is excellent news. Check out the DLSS settings, whatever you do in Cyberpunk, because I know a lot of you are playing this game on PC, so go for it. But, you know, on the side of PlayStation 5 and consoles, what's going on there? We do actually have some updates about that one. We have a post here from, I think it's Amara Uchila, I think it is. Sorry if I butchered the name, but it says patch 1.23 crowd density for PS5, and it doesn't look like it's too bad here, as you can see on the PS5. So yeah, a lot of people noted that it seems to be pretty okay. Let me know, for those of you that are actually running the game on PlayStation 5, if that is the case and the consoles are improving. But a lot of you are wanting more quality of life improvements with this game. And you feel like CD Projekt Red is not delivering in that department, and this is apparent by another very upvoted thread out here from White Wolf 144. It says, patch 1.23 be like quality of life improvements in trying to deliver what was promised, and then fix appearance of rocks in the Badlands. I remember reading over the patch notes in my most recent video, and I was like, oh, come on, really? Did they really have to put that in the patch? Like, come on, it was absolutely the bare minimum patch they could have produced in the time given. I really, really hope they have something big cooking up for Cyberpunk 2077. That's just my opinion. But yeah, we also have a very, very interesting article right here that says the following. It goes on to say how games like Cyberpunk can gain an extra life. And it kind of compares the situation with No Man's Sky and, of course, Final Fantasy, which also had a horrible launch. So let's dive into this article a little bit more, shall we? So let's do this. It goes on to say this: retro futurist video game Cyberpunk is to be back in the PlayStation Store tomorrow after a disastrous launch marred by bugs forced a 184-day timeout on the platform. My God. But can a blockbuster game recover from the reputational hit of a failed rollout? Sometimes, as other titles have shown, one can. Interesting. It says redemption is possible, but it's risky. Fail twice and you're done, said Johan Bessenhound, game tester for yuxvideo.com. I don't know how to say that. But anyway, it says CD Projekt Red SA's dark future role-playing title had been hotly anticipated after the studio's work on the groundbreaking The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, but gamers were disappointed when the game first appeared and online storm damaged confidence. An online storm damaged confidence. Interesting wording there. But anyway, goes on to say the following. Says, some games, even some studios, go under after such a botched start. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm a little worried. It says, but when the hopefully revamped Cyberpunk goes back on sale, the developers will be hoping they emulate the revival of games like No Man's Sky. When the game came out in mid-2016 under the banner of UK studio Hello Games, the epic Space Explorer was billed as a revolution set in almost an infinite universe featuring planets boasting unique ecosystem. And it says it's up there, yes, as one of the most exciting games I've ever awaited, 31-year-old British gamer Matthew Winter said. However, the resulting game fell short as repetitive and bug-ridden. A social media furor erupted among the vocal gaming community. My God, I remember that one. It says, I was very disappointed. Winter said, I blame them for lying, but I blame myself for allowing myself for being as hyped as I was. Yeah, that's why I'm like more guarded and more realistic, but I don't think any of us, I do not think any of us were prepared for Cyberpunk at all. Like, this was on a whole other level of disappointment because of the pedigree of CD Projekt Red, their history. Now, it says many players demanded refunds, but 5 years later, No Man's Sky has not only survived, but after a series of free downloadable fixes and improvements, it has become a critical success and something of a classic. And, you know, what's really noteworthy here is all of the downloadable content, I believe, for No Man's Sky, even the big additions, have been free. And then they released, I think, a definitive edition. The problem that Cyberpunk potentially faces is that they are going to be doing big DLCs that are going to cost some money. So that's the barrier that I'm seeing compared to No Man's Sky right now. Now it says reinvention and constant updates are even more important in the world of massively multiplayer online role-playing game, which relies on a loyal subscriber base to maintain longer-term revenue. Now, in 2010, this is really interesting. Japanese studio Square Enix Holdings Company's Final Fantasy XIV. What is that? Is that 16 or 14? I think it's 14. As the number implies, inherited fans from popular long-running series, only to disappoint them at first with a lack of varied content within the player's world. The first version was taken down and a relaunched, reworked virtual world returned in 2013. It took them 3 years. Bit by bit, the community was restored, and by the middle of the last year, 20 million players were wandering its vast playable space. And I've researched this one as well. You know, I don't play too many MMOs, but I hope to get into some of those more and more. But it's really interesting because Final Fantasy has made a major comeback. In fact, some people are leaving supposedly World of Warcraft for Final Fantasy, which is saying something because World of Warcraft has had a staying power like no other. So it does show how, you know, a lot of times these games can absolutely be revived and make a massive comeback if the studio is passionate enough, if they're patient enough, and they're willing to basically bite the bullet, pull back, and be like, you know what, we failed this time, but we'll be back with like a definitive edition. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully that does happen with Cyberpunk. But again, my assessment of the entire situation is it is going to be a while, a long time. And another worry about this whole situation is if it's going to be that long, they're going to be facing off against new competitors in the next coming years. We might even see GTA 6 by then, so Cyberpunk might be old news. And that's another worry that CD Projekt Red has to realize. All right, so let's go over your top comments from my most recent Cyberpunk video. Let's do this. So my most recent video was called Cyberpunk just got a new patch and update, but what does it change? Plus, recent reviews are in. I highlighted some Steam reviews that were more recent after patches. It seems like it's still a mix, but interestingly, the game is skewing towards more positive reception as time goes on. So that's actually really good news. Now, Vortex goes on to say the following. He says, bugs aside, the city feels lifeless and empty if you look past the gloss. Yeah, I hear ya. Avery Becker says, I really wish I had waited a year to buy this game. Note to self, never pre-order a CDPR game. That's how a lot of people are feeling. I never imagined that. You know, even with Bethesda, I remember covering the Fallout games. I'm like, man, I want to get on the Fallout games. Bethesda, they are quality. They had that major problem with Fallout 76, but even they, you know, I have to like just say they have really stuck with Fallout 76 despite the launch issues, which I again think is great for a company to stick it out. Now, Michael says this, I feel like a year-long delay wouldn't have fixed the underlying issues. So a lot of you guys feel like it's a core designer issue, like it's a problem with the actual designing of the game. And you know, they are in the process right now of hiring new talent for open world design, encounter design, scripting, all sorts of stuff, gameplay. They want new blood at their studio to give them new ideas and new innovations. I'm paraphrasing what they have on their job listing, but that's the gist of it, and they are realizing that they have more underlying issues than just the glitches and bugs. Now, also, we have Chica who says this, CD Projekt Red, all you need to do is fix the AI in the game, the physics, and make Night City feel more alive. Exactly. I really hope they can, I do hope they can prevail with this game. It's gonna take some time as well. All right, so there it is, guys. I'm trying to see if there's any more top comments here. I could highlight some more, but thank you all so much for watching the video. Stay tuned for more updates about Cyberpunk 2077, and I will see you all next time. Take care.